It's a song that continues to change people's lives with its incredible lyrics and its uplifting message. Up next, the story behind one of the biggest #1 songs of 1988 with a verse-by-verse breakdown from the amazingly talented co-writer of this song. It's next on Professor of Rock, brought to you by Zenny Eyewear. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Tell you what, if you are nostalgic for the greatest music of the rock and roll era, what MTV used to be in the 80s, subscribe right now, hit the bell so you always get our daily content because this is your place. Also, join our exclusive Patreon for more content and to support our mission. In 1988, Michael Jackson released his 4th single from the mega platinum album Bad, Man in the Mirror. It went to *1. That made Michael Jackson 4 for 4 with hitting the top spot on the charts. Man in the Mirror was, of course, written by Glen Ballard and Siedah Garrett. It was produced by MJ and Quincy Jones, the great Quincy Jones. Unless you have a heart of stone, this is a game-changing song. If you listen to the song with real intent, I mean the lyrics, the music, and its profound message, it does have the ability to change the way you look at the world. Hopefully the way you approach the world as well. I mean, we can all be better than we are, and this song really has the power to motivate transformation of the soul. There's just something great in it that lifts you. I was very fortunate to sit down with singer-songwriter Siedah Garrett, who co-wrote the song and sang backgrounds. She also duetted with Michael on his first #1 hit from Bad, I Just Can't Stop Loving You. Michael considered her a close confidant. Siedah shares the beautiful story of helping to create a song that really has meant so much to so many. Now, before we go into this interview, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenny Eyewear, the glasses I rock daily. You can actually go design your own very cost effectively. If you go to zenny.com, you can actually do what they call a virtual try-on to see how you look before you buy it. It's really cool. Click on the link below to do that. Here's the story behind Man in the Mirror.
Gonna make a change for once in my life.
Let's talk about Man in the Mirror. One of the greatest songs of all time. And it was his 4th straight #1 hit, which at that time set a record. 8th chart topper of the 80s when that became #1, which gave him a record for the 80s. Record of the Year, Grammy nomination. I read that you actually asked for divine intervention when you were writing it. Is that true? That you asked?
I didn't ask, but it came.
Wow.
It was truly delivered.
Because you wanted to write a great song for Michael.
I wanted to get his attention. Because those other 3 guys in the group, they had already met him. They sang background vocals for the History Tour. And they came back bragging, yeah, we met Michael, we got pictures.
Yeah.
And I was like, Quincy, I want to meet him too. He said, don't worry, you will. But I didn't want it to be Quincy going, Michael, this is Becky, Joy, Siedah, Barbara, Ralph, George, and I didn't want that. I wanted him to want to. I don't even know where do I get these ideas, the audacity to think, oh, I want the biggest pop star in history to want to meet me. But I knew that I had to write something that wasn't ooh baby baby, because Michael can do that in his sleep. I knew that he had a world stage.
See the kids in the street, but not enough to eat.
A world platform. And I wanted him to say something important to the world, because I knew that they would listen if he said it.
I'm pretending not to see them need.
I wrote this song with Glenn, and we didn't know, if it would get past Quincy. It had to pass.
Because he hadn't taken an outside song for 2.5 years.
3 or 4 days before Glenn and I wrote this song, I had a meeting at Quincy's house with me and 6 or 7 of his other West Coast songwriters. He said, we're trying to finish out this Michael Jackson album, the Bad album. And, we need one more song.
We want hits.
Mid-tempo. He didn't know really. He just gave me a few parameters. And I wrote a short list and took it to Glen Ballard. And I said, Quincy, he trying to come up with a song for Michael. He said, well, what does he want? I said, I don't know. He said, well, let's just see what we come up with. He gets up and goes over to the keyboard to turn on the keyboard to get some sounds. Cut to 2 years before that day. I'm sitting in Venice writing a song with John Beasley. And we're just writing, and I thought the writing was going well, and I thought we were doing great. Phone rings. And instead of letting the answering machine pick the phone up, he picks up the phone and begins this very banal conversation. Oh, nothing. I'm not doing nothing. Just, and I'm flipping through my lyric book, like seething, going, no, he didn't say he wasn't. In my mind, no, he didn't say he wasn't doing nothing. And then then I hear him say, the man. What man? Oh, the man in the mirror. Wrote down man in the mirror. 2 years later, I'm at Glen's house. He gets up to turn on the keyboard. He starts playing. Doom, 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 doom. I'm flipping through my book. And at a certain point, the phrase man in the mirror leapt off the page. And at that point, I was thinking, Glenn, I couldn't write it fast enough. I couldn't get the words out fast enough. And in like 10, 12 minutes, we had the first verse and chorus of Man in the Mirror. It was Wednesday night. Glenn said, fine, you finish the lyric, I'll finish the track, and on Friday, we'll demo the song. We demoed the song Friday. On Friday night, I begged Quincy to let me take it to his house rather than wait till Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week for him to hear it.
You go to his house, he's got 12 suits
12 suits at his dining room. He opens the door and they all look at me like the vibe was, you know what, this better be good because we're doing stuff in here and you're interrupting. It was all on all their faces. I was like, Quincy, can you just, I gave him the cassette and then just got out as quickly as possible so we could get back to that.
Did you know at that time that it was just special? Did you know that, because you have the title, but when you started writing, it was coming to you, did it hit you? Because sometimes songwriters say, I knew it.
We knew it was a good song. In fact, when we finished the demo, we hugged. We're like, this is great. It really is. But we didn't know if Quincy was going to think it was a good song. We didn't know if once it passed Quincy, if Michael was going to think it was a good song or good enough to record it. There were too many variables, too many things that could go wrong for me to even trouble myself about it. So I just delivered it. And this song has taken on a life of its very own.
No question.
Who knew 30 years? Did I say 30? Yeah, bitch, 30 years later, that this song would be like, I'm doing master classes at elementary schools. And elementary school kids who weren't even a twinkle in their daddy's eye when the song came out. They're singing not just the chorus, the whole song.
Oh, yeah.
From the very first word. It's insane.
Well, when he called you, when Q called you on the phone and said, Michael's going to do it, and then, of course, you're excited about that, and then he calls you back and talks about the bridge. Michael wants to make these changes. Tell me a little bit more about that.
He wanted to make the chorus longer, right? Extend the chorus by 8 bars. So he said, we're going to need more lyrics for that. And Michael really wants you to. Then he starts telling me what Michael wants from it. And then he puts Michael on the phone, of course. And then Michael gives me some parameters. And then I wrote these 6 different phrases. And then he chose those. And I went in the studio and recorded. First of all, the song that I wrote was in a key that was a little bit too high for Michael.
Right.
So Quincy called me into the studio to sing the demo in a higher key. I didn't know that was the day I was going to meet Michael Jackson, my husband. So I walk in the studio and it's Quincy Jones, Bruce Swedien, and Michael. And I just sit down and we speak or whatever, we're talking. And Quincy says, we need you to sing the demo in the higher key. So Sid, why don't you go in there? So I get up and I go in. And again, Michael's like right behind me, only it's 1980 whatever, and he has a gigantic Mangazzo video camera on his shoulder, and he's following me, and I'm going, what are you doing? He says, I want to film you singing the song, and I'm like, why? And then he says, because I want to sing it like you. I said, great, Mike. All my friends are gonna believe me when I say he wanted to sing it like me. Yeah, right. So he just filmed me singing that in the higher key, and I never thought any more about it. Then the Spike Lee documentary comes out, where you actually see Michael following me into the studio with this gigantic recorder on his shoulder. So it's actually me singing Man in the Mirror to the man in the mirror that I'm singing in the mirror, the man in the, it was just crazy. It was just insane. And I hadn't thought about that moment at all until I saw the documentary.
Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see them?
And then, of course, he has the idea to bring in Andre Crouch and his choir. And
that was
the
not his
Winans.
idea.
Really?
That was Quincy Jones's.
Okay.
Yeah. Quincy and Bruce came up with the idea to add the choir, and then it was Quincy's idea to do the modulation.
I want to go through, though, if you don't mind, some of the lyrics a little bit.
Okay.
Gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids on the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? Were you talking about walking out and seeing that? Was that an actual moment?
We were in New York City in the middle of winter, and I was walking back to my hotel with one of the producers in this blizzard. We're walking past brick buildings, brownstones, and then complete vacant lots where families once lived. There was a family that lived in this space, and now there's nothing but broken bits of glass and broken bottles and chain link fencing.
Top.
That's where all that wording came from a time when I was in New York in the winter, and I just felt it was so desolate and so barren.
The wind, and that's where that wind comes from. We're talking about the wind blowing.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah, cold and windy.
Winter cold, this wind is blowing my mind.
Been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize there's some with no home, no nickel to loan. Could it be really me pretending they're not alone? A willow deeply scarred somebody's broken heart. I love that line.
That happened. We were walking down the street and someone had taken a knife and etched their initials K plus R equals love or whatever it was. They had literally mutilated that tree with their initials. That's why I said, this willow.
Oh, willow deeply scarred, somebody's broken heart.
The sidewalk, deeply scarred from a knifing that someone had etched
broken
their
heart,
initials.
Washed out dream. That's great imagery, great poetry.
And a washed out dream.
They follow the pattern of the wind you see because they got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. It gets to that end part where Michael just goes insane. I mean, it really, I feel like that vocal performance inspired so much of what would come later when he would go into the vocal booth, because sometimes you look at the lyrics and they say, chime on. He's saying, chime on. But I always said, everybody always started saying, shamo.
You know? It was shamo.
And that came from that. I mean, he really didn't say that before. For my money, that's the greatest vocal performance in a song ever. Because he
amazing.
He just lets it overtake he opens up his soul. And those lyrics and those, tell me about that moment. Were you in the studio when he was doing that? When he was doing that part?
We were doing it together. The first, the whole first part of the song, until the choir comes in, it's me and Michael. It's Michael doing the lead and me doing all the, who am I to be blind? All those harmonies, it's just me and him. So we got to spend most of one day just us two recording the whole song. And then, a couple of days later, us recording with the choir. Well, us, meaning me. Michael wasn't with the choir, but he was in the studio looking down. But so, not from the heavens, from a booth.
Take a look at yourself, then make that
The end of the song basically is when the choir comes in, but the whole, first 3/4 of the song, it's just Michael and I. And it was so much fun singing that song.
Oh my God. When you saw him going off and singing that, what's that like?
You feel that you're in the presence of greatness. But the joyous part about recording with Michael Jackson, it was my experience that he made me feel like he had as much to learn from me as I did from him. He respected my talent. He respected my creativity. He loved my voice. He loved my songs. He even recorded another song of mine on the Dangerous album.
Keep the Faith.
Keep the Faith.
Yeah.
And I had a publisher at the time, and first of all, she wasn't, She didn't believe that I could write a song to be on Michael's record. So she said, come on, every songwriter in LA is writing for that record. Like, she was like, get that out of your mind. So then it happened. I said, it would be really great if I could get another song on, Michael's Dangerous album. She said, oh, please. I know you got the song on the first record, but nobody gets songs back to back on Michael Jackson's. Needless to say, she's no longer my publicist, but, yeah.
So keep the faith.
I've read in interviews where you've just said that, like, it was inspired. That
Truly.
It came from God or the higher power.
I happen to be in the room, man.
Yeah.
I just happen to be in the room.
Yeah. And then the fact that the choir gets together and it becomes this great thing. But the other amazing part about it is that the instrumental intro was played at the end of Michael's memorial service.
Oh.
And while the casket was being carried out, it was followed up by a spotlight shining on the microphone on an empty stage. And then after the closing prayer, that prayer had elements of the song incorporated into it, some of the words.
We should all look at the man or the woman in the mirror.
And then that spotlight remained. And that, to me,
Wow.
sums up the essence of Michael. And I know that he was looking down. As we said
Smiling.
before, you can point to Thriller and all these records. Thriller's the biggest selling album of all time. But the essence that he left, the legacy, is that song. That's the memory that people can change.
Right.
Leave us a comment about this beautiful song and its impact in your life. What does this song mean to you? What do you remember about it? You can, of course, hear the song in our YouTube playlist below. You can also get this song on vinyl at the Amazon link below. Check us out on Patreon for even more great content. Help us keep the music alive. Make sure to subscribe. We love you guys. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.